What a Strange Little Colt. Written by Linwood. Chapter 5. Excellence, Part 1. Friday.
You need me to what?
Rainbow Dash said, her mouth twisted into a grimace. A muffled, high-pitched voice responded from the other side of the bathroom door.
Look, I need help changing them because I can't reach all the way around my back. It's not that bad.
Rainbow's stomach flipped a little bit, but she pushed the feeling away as best she could, setting a hoof on the doorknob.
Okay, kid. I'm coming in now.
Gabriel sat on his hindquarters in the middle of the sparsely decorated upstairs bathroom, fiddling with the yellow-white bandages around his foreleg. He'd already moved the bandages around his head. They'd come away clean, so at least she wouldn't have to rewrap that particular wound. She watched as he undid the wrappings around the enchanted splint that clung to his foreleg with his teeth, taking care to extract the bits of faintly glowing wood and set them on the tile floor. He then removed the bandage underneath, pulling layers of cloth that became progressively more yellowed and brown as they came away.
You just gonna stand there and stare?
He muttered through the bandage without looking at her. Rainbow coughed and pretended she didn't have an embarrassed blush growing in her cheeks.
Yeah, of course.
Then more confidently,
How can I help?
the Colt jerked his head.
Come here. I need you to hold this.
He said through his teeth. The Cyan Pegasus sat down beside the smaller foal and leaned in to grab the end of the bandage from his mouth. He spat a little once it was free.
That tasted kind of like pus. Gross.
Rainbow chuckled. Gabe returned his focus to his foreleg, shifting it to point at her and waving it in a circle. The bandage there quickly became loose, and he pulled the rest of it away in one big heap, holding his naked foreleg up.
Much easier,
he said as he turned his head away, apparently missing the face that his caretaker made. The sewn-up gash on the kid's leg radiated an angry red color. Little bits of his stitches stuck out of his flesh here and there, poking up in a way that made Rainbow deeply uncomfortable. The fur at its edges that had not escaped the razor wasn't green anymore and mostly clear, but yellow-tinted liquid seeped through the cracks in the crusty brown scabs that ran the length of the wound.
Kid? Are you sure you're fine? That cut doesn't look so hot. Huh?
Gabe turned back to look at Rainbow with a quizzical look, a tube of ointment held between his pearly whites. He glanced down at his foreleg and spat the tube out on the floor.
What do you mean?
Rainbow grimaced.
Just look at it. There's that stuff coming out from it. Doesn't that mean it's infected?
Infected? Oh, no, not at all. The Colt shook his head.
I mean, maybe, like, a little. But believe me, if it were really infected, you could tell from the smell alone. And, there'd be real pus, the green and yellow stuff. No, it just looks nasty because it's healing right. And I'm pretty sure that paste is an antibiotic. It's probably all good, so don't worry.
Gabe inspected a droplet of blood that welled up from the crack between the two scabs and muttered very quietly to himself.
I wonder what my blood type is.
Then he looked back at her and gestured to the neat pile of bandages sitting beside him.
Can you grab one of the smaller rolls?
Rainbow scooped up one of the clean white bandages.
How did you know about blood types? Did you learn it in school?
The Colt didn't respond right away, as he had removed the cap from the tube of ointment and placed the tube back in his mouth. Rainbow watched, a little impressed as the Colt carefully squeezed some of the medicine onto his wound. Then he spat the tube out again and spread it over the whole cut with the tip of his hoof.
I've dealt with a lot of stuff like this in my day, believe it or not. Unpleasant times. No kidding. It wasn't all bad, though. Folks just tended to get scraped up along the way. Some worse than others. And we weren't always lucky enough to have, doctors nearby.
Rainbow got the feeling that unpleasant was a grave understatement as Gabe continued.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to hold the edge of the bandage right here.
The Colt walked her through the process of rebandaging the wound, replacing the splint and then wrapping it up all tightly. After they finished and he tested out the range of movement with his leg, a bit of pride surged through Rainbow's chest. She never changed bandages like that before.
And now for the hard one,
Gabe said, reminding Dash of the ugly wound on the Colt's side.
Not looking forward to this.
Rainbow stuck out her tongue.
Me neither, kid.
They removed the outer wrappings easily enough, but things got rougher once they reached the final layer. Rainbow tried not to focus on the way the cloth peeled away from his shaved skin, trailing thin strands of Celestia knew what, and prompting the Colt to produce a soft hiss. The wound underneath looked so unpleasant that Rainbow had a real trouble keeping her breakfast down. Through it all, the Colt looked calm as ever, continuing to give Rainbow level-headed instruction as she smeared the wound with ointment and rewrapped the Colt's torso up like it was nightmare night, and he'd chosen to dress up as a very incomplete mummy. She pinned in the trailing edge of the bandage and produced a relieving sigh.
Finally. That was gross as heck.
The little green Colt gave a good-natured chuckle.
Hey, at least you're not the one who's gonna have to walk around with a brutal scar. Yeah.
Rainbow still couldn't shake the thought that had lodged in her head. How did he keep such an impossible calm?
Hey, doesn't this hurt?
The Colt shrugged, beginning to paw at the bandage on his wing.
Sure. Why? I mean, doesn't this hurt, like, a lot? This isn't like, dressing up a huff cut.
Rainbow had seen other foals in tears over things like paper cuts and bee stings. The Colt thought about that for a second, cocking his head to the side and chewing on his lip.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts just about as much as you expect, but it's not so bad once you get used to it. I think why, ponies freak out when they get hurt is just because it's surprising, yeah? It's pretty shocking to get injured.
He twisted his head around to look at his freshly bandaged side.
But once you get over the shock, it's just annoying, and from there it's a matter of doing your best to not think about it. Oh, wow.
Rainbow felt a little dumbstruck. Gabriel chuckled.
It isn't so bad that I can't ignore it now, but if I had been awake when I got it, I'd probably have been screaming my head off.
It felt indescribably absurd to watch such a little Colt talk about getting horribly injured and maimed so calmly. How many times had he seen this happen to become so jaded by it? How many times had he been hurt to learn to ignore pain on the scale of getting your side torn out?
What did this to him?
Rainbow felt so simultaneously heartbroken for him and angry at the ones responsible that the emotions just clashed in her head, rolling around and tussling and mixing into a blob of sorrow and disgusted exhaustion. She shook her head a bit and refocused when she noticed Gabe struggling to undo his wing splint.
Here, let me give you a huff.
It turned out that, at least when it came to wings, Rainbow was much more knowledgeable than Gabe. Apparently no pony had ever bothered to teach him about them. She carefully inspected the limb, preened out the bad feathers, and after a while of moving it this way and that, and asking Gabe if it hurt, she told him not to play it down just to make sure. Rainbow announced, somewhat surprised, that his wing had healed, and the splint could go in the trash.
This kid is healing fast,
she thought to herself as she dropped the used wing splint in the bathroom wastebasket with the rest of the old bandages. It lay there, discarded, its job complete, and Rainbow furrowed her brow.
I can't wait till it all goes in there.
It would be a relief to see that Colt trotting around looking normal and not like a walking bandage roll. To think that there were people in this world willing to do such things to a foal.
Whoever did this to him had better hope I never get my hoofs on them.
Then she took a deep breath and let her twisted up muzzle relax.
Hey, Gabe?
Rainbow said over her shoulder.
Huh?
She turned around.
I want you to know that you don't have to worry about getting hurt like this anymore. I'll make sure you stay safe.
The little fool got a weird look in his eyes and opened his mouth to speak, and after a moment closed it again. A moment passed.
Thanks, Rainbow.
Sandy Hill's ears twitched at the sound of an opening door as she raised her head to see Rainbow Dash and little Gabriel shuffle into the room. She greeted the duo with a wide grin.
Gabriel, Rainbow Dash, so glad to see you two. I'm glad you found the room all right. Hey, Sandy.
Rainbow remained in the doorway, shuffling her hooves.
What's going on with her?
Sandy thought.
She looks nervous, uncomfortable, odd. Hi, Miss Hills.
Gabriel said, walking to the room and examining its decor. Sandy had worked hard to make the full therapy room as comfortable as possible. The walls were painted with a mural of blue skies and rolling green hills, punctuated by images of frolicking colts and fillies. The only furniture in the room was a table, made to be just the right height for foals, surrounded by a set of well-loved sitting pillows. Beat-up donation toys cluttered the room's corners. Some foals talked best while playing. Gabriel ignored them, making his way to the table and prodding one of the cushions with a curious huff before plopping his rear down on it.
All right, Rainbow, I'm all set.
He called over his shoulder.
Great. I'll see you this afternoon. Be good for Sandy, okay? I will.
Rainbow gave them both a big wave, which Sandy returned and vanished back out the door. Gabe turned back to face her, looking expectant, so the counselor retrieved her clipboard from her saddlebags, which she had set in a pile nearby, and began their session.
I'm glad to see you're walking around so well, Gabriel. I notice your wing is free.
The aforementioned limb flopped on his back as it's mentioned.
Yeah, Rainbow said it was good so we didn't need to splint it again. Feels great. How's your pain? Not too bad?
He shook his head.
Ah, fantastic.
She cleared her throat, wishing she had the foresight to bring a glass of water in here.
So, tell me, how's your time with Rainbow Dash been so far? What have you two been up to? Oh, she's been good,
He said.
She showed me her house, which is made of freaking clouds. I've never seen anything like it. Then she took me to, Ponyville, and we bought some stuff. She was real nice the whole time, explaining everything to me and buying me food. We bought hot dogs from a stand and they were amazing. I, just wish I could have helped her pay.
Sandy decided to adjust the paying comment second.
Hot dogs? Do you mean hay dogs?
He made a confused face.
Same thing, right?
The counselor shook her head.
I've never heard them called hot dogs. Huh. Well, you get the idea. Gabriel, what do you mean when you say that you wanted to help pay for the hay dogs?
He shrugged his little green shoulders and brushed some of his tousled mane out of his eyes.
I just mean that, I'd rather not be a burden. Pulling my weight and all that, you know?
His words made the Pegasus mare put down her clipboard.
Oh, honey, you're not a burden to us. I promise.
She could tell from the look he gave her that he didn't believe her for a heartbeat.
Maybe, maybe not. Doesn't change the fact that she still has to pay to keep me fed and a roof over my head. I don't like that. Oh, don't worry, Gabriel, because she agreed to it. The ministry will give Rainbow the money to take care of you. She wouldn't need to pay out of pocket, not a single bit.
He raised an eyebrow in surprise.
Wow, you guys really do that?
When she nodded, he chuckled a little.
This place is so different from home. Well, how did the rest of your 2 days go? It wasn't much more than that. We ate the hay dogs at the park and talked a little bit. She really is sweet, that mare.
Celestia, it was so strange to hear her full talking about Rainbow like she was a friendly co-worker and not his temporary foster parent.
Then again,
She thought.
there are worse ways for a foal to think of their caretakers. What do you mean, Gabriel?
He waved his hoof in the air.
Oh, I mean, that she's so concerned about me, even though she tries to hide it and be cool all the time. When we were shopping, she offered to buy me some toys or something.
Sandy Hill smiled a big happy smile and clapped her hooves.
Oh, that's wonderful. Not something I would have expected from ever cool Miss Dash either. What should you pick out? Oh, I didn't get any.
She blinked and her smile disappeared, to which he responded.
Yeah, Rainbow gave me the same look. Don't worry. I made sure she knew that it wasn't because of her, just that, you know.
He scrunched up his muzzle.
I don't even know what I'd do with a toy. Not really about to play with one. Why not?
He looked her in the eye.
Miss Hills, I haven't really wanted to play with toys in years. I guess I grew out of them, like, anybody else?
Sandy hummed, trying her best to keep her expression positive.
It's okay to play with toys at your age, Gabriel. I'd say most every foal your age does so. There's absolutely no shame in it.
He huffed, but he didn't deny what she said.
Anyway, I can tell Rainbow really's concerned about me. Especially when I tell her about any time I've been through something tough. She just...
A moment passed while he hesitated, scratching at the surface of the worn wooden table with the tip of his hoof.
She's looking out for me, and I can appreciate that.
The foal obviously put a great deal of effort into putting up the appearances of an adult. It was going to take time and hard work to convince the little foal that it was okay to act his age here. She shuddered to think of what experiences he had been through that had been so thoroughly convinced him that he absolutely had to behave in such a way.
I'm glad that you and Rainbow are getting along so well,
She replied.
Not every foal takes to their foster parents so well, especially if they're this temporary. Huh. Weird.
He said. She lifted her head and raised an eyebrow in a silent question. He blinked and rushed to explain.
I mean that, I didn't really think about the fact that she's my foster mother. Odd thought. But yeah, she's cool. Even if she tried to maybe a little too hard yesterday. What do you mean?
A spark of worry leapt up in her heart and she rushed to suppress it.
This is an element of harmony we're talking about. I'm sure it's fine. Oh, it's just that on the way back to her, floaty cloud home, she stopped to show me what it was like to walk on a normal cloud. It was pretty cool, but then she got too excited and tried to show me a trick. Uh-oh,
Sandy thought.
She hit one of the clouds going really fast, and it made lightning, and it caught me off guard.
He looked back to the table, scratching it again with one hoof, and brushing a light green mane out of his eyes with the other.
She had to fly down and catch me after I jumped off.
That made Sandy's heart leap up to her throat, and a rush of anger leapt up with it. How dare she? Didn't she know she was dealing with a traumatized foal?
Now, Gabriel,
she began, not quite able to keep her voice venom-free.
If you want me to speak with Miss Dash... No, it's not what you think.
Gabriel waved his hooves, his big brown eyes glinting with something that seemed close to concern.
She didn't know I'd do that. If I had any idea what she was trying to do, I would have told her that loud noises like that are a pretty bad idea. She was really sorry afterward. I think it's still bothering her, even though I told her it was okay. She's apologized like 40 times. Really, I barely got her to stop.
Sandy paused, holding her righteous anger back.
Are you sure, Gabriel? If Rainbow Dash tries anything like this again, it's fine, I promise. I just wasn't expecting it.
The counselor thought for a minute.
If you say so, Gabriel. If she does something like that again, though, I want you to tell me as soon as you can, okay? It'd be unfortunate if Dash wasn't able to foster because of her ego.
The Dan mare reminded herself to send the letters she had written out to the potential families.
Now, Gabriel, I know you've been through a lot, so I want to remind you that if you feel uncomfortable answering any of my questions, just tell me, okay? I need to find out a little more about your background so that I know how I can help you best, alright?
He nodded.
Alright. Thank you for letting me help. Now, can you tell me a little bit more on why loud noises are a bad idea?
The Colt chewed on his lip a little. Sandy smiled and waited patiently for him to think out his answer.
They're reminders of hard times.
And that was apparently all he had to say about that.
Well, can you be a little more specific about what kind of noises that scare you? Is it any loud noise? Just loud, sharp ones,
the Colt specified.
Like lightning cracking or dropping a heavy book on the flat floor. Also, thunder. Thunder especially. Even though, it's not sharp, I guess.
Sandy noted that down with a quick flourish of her pencil.
Thank you, Gabriel. I won't ask you about these noises anymore, but I will remind you that you're welcome to tell me about them at any time, as long as you're comfortable.
He blinked at her. A little bit of his light green mane fell over his eyes. She cleared her throat.
Gabriel, I'd like to know a little bit more about your background. This can be a hard topic, so just know that I'll let you know if I'm uncomfortable answering.
Good. Foals could sometimes be hard to convince to do things like admitting when they weren't comfortable talking. Depending on the foal, it could take multiple sessions to get them to be able to tell her that they didn't want to speak on a subject, instead of awkwardly dancing around her or just climbing up entirely. It was great that Gabriel said he was willing to tell her, but whether or not he actually would do so posed an entirely different matter.
Okay, Gabriel, I'm gonna ask you about your past.
She looked at him, and he gave her a nod.
You said you're from Westfield, correct?
The Colt nodded.
Yep. Were you born there? Yeah. To his knowledge, which may be unreliable.
The Colt had said he had grown up in Westfield, but that could be anything from a town to the trafficking circle's base of operations.
And your parents,
She peeked at her notes, squinting and trying to remember how he had pronounced those odd names.
Amelia and David. Right.
She noted down the phonetics this time.
Can you tell me about them?
Gabriel had said they weren't ponies, leading Sandy Hills to theorize that whoever these people were, they were not his real parents, and the same could likely be said for his sister. The fact that he shared their strange naming conventions implied a renaming as well. However, that didn't mean they hadn't treated him kindly. He did refer to them as family, after all. Then again, Foal's recollections weren't known for being especially reliable.
This really is all up in the air.
Man, I really need to do more of this fic. I love this fic, and honestly, similar to my TCP week, I might do like a week of What a Strange Little Colt, just to really chug along in the story. Because this is something I really want to finish, and it's really good. I would like to show you all that haven't read it, which I recommend, by the way. It's such a good fic. Give the author props, please. A lot of people don't do that, and I think it's really worth it. I don't know. I love these things. This is my hobby. I enjoy making these, and I think the author should get all the credit. That aside, however, I would like to thank my wonderful Patreons. Thank you, Squall, Windfeather, Juan de la Paz, Starlight Blaze, Dreamless Portal, and Rain Flicker. Chase Lemaster, Sword Brother and Mordred, Danish Dash, Solus, RD Bryant, Captain Blueshadow, Nocturne, HKH4 aka Texture, The Animated Ghost, and Canned Panzer. And thank you to a new Patreon, DJMX 2000. I have so many Patreons now, this is getting a little big. Oh, and of course the large thank you to Silent Titan. I appreciate your guys' support so much, and it means a ton to me. Anyways, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.